always tell people is that my parents gave me everything, but not everything in the way that we often see parents give everything to their kids and material things or gifts or any of that. They gave me everything in the form of teaching me how to work hard and really seeing what that looked like. Because I feel like if we would have burdened each other, then we wouldn't be where we are right now. But it's because we did cheer each other on, but still shared that vision of growing and envisioning being successful, but also understanding that it took a lot of discipline and a lot of sacrifice.
Coach Aruza, he's the one who instilled in me, what does commitment look like? What does discipline look like? What does love actually mean? How do you show that? How do you show that in holding somebody else accountable? What are you doing on your day-to-day basis? What does sacrifice look like?
Okay, so here we are, another episode of Rate of Success podcast. I am thoroughly enjoyed today. So we have two guests today. We have Jocelyn and we have Perry. And full disclosure, this is our first time meeting. So one of the things we love on this podcast is to meet new people. And obviously, I give them a lot of credit for coming and meeting with me today and doing a podcast when they didn't know who I was. So thank you for that. But why don't you tell me a little bit, both of you, where you are currently, how long you've been in the business, and kind of start from there. So Jocelyn, do you want to start?
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having us.
Yes.
My name is Jocelyn Hernandez, and I always start this usually the same. I am the eldest daughter of 6 kids.
Wow.
First generation and everything. So first to go to college, first to leave Chicago or Illinois to go to college. And so that has been a great opportunity, but also a huge responsibility.
Yeah.
And it's really made me the person I am. And currently, my family has been in real estate since about before 2008, but really got into it more after that. Became a real estate agent, got eventually my master's in architecture, and now trying to build it all and bundle it all up together now.
That's amazing. That's great. And Perry, how about you?
Yeah, I appreciate you for having us.
Yeah.
It's been a delight. You guys have been very hospitable, so we appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'm Perry. East Coast kid, originally from Virginia, born and raised. Moved out here to Chicagoland area about 1.5 2 years ago. So it's been a good experience so far. I came chasing Jocelyn. So
there you go. That's what happens, right?
That's what happens. You know how it is. So
yeah,
I'm a engineering physics graduate. My career is in construction management. I'm a project engineer, project manager for an industrial contractor, which has been great. A lot of responsibility, a lot of big numbers.
Yeah.
Really cool. When it comes to real estate, I've been really fortunate to have really great connections. Jocelyn, her family, some other people, mortgage brokers. I own a couple properties, have some great tenants. So it's been really great. I'm big on financial literacy, real estate investing, stock market investing, and just kind of growth in all areas.
That's great. That's great. So we're going to learn a lot about that. I guess, Jocelyn, what I'm curious about is, I know you've mentioned your parents a few times being in real estate. So obviously you had this great platform to kind of learn from. Obviously it's only natural that you got into real estate, but it also could have kind of taken you a different direction because sometimes we don't always follow in our path. We kind of get drawn away from it. So did you always know that you were going to get into real estate growing up, or how did you kind of find your way to, because as I always joke about, no one ever plans to be in real estate. We kind of all end up here in a lot of ways by mistake, or, something doesn't work out and we end up here. But what was your path like getting into real estate?
Yeah, so when I was helping my parents, it wasn't something that I was, hugely passionate about. It was something that I was just helping them out with.
Yeah.
As I was mentioning to you, I would translate everything for them, but that was doctor visits, that was any formal document that came through the house. And it just so happened that my mom really pushed my dad into real estate. They bought a property, 2008 hit. They lost 2 properties, and we just started building from there. But being the first generation student that I was, and I was doing very good, usually Hispanic families, you're a lawyer, you're a doctor. And so I was like, okay, I'll be a doctor.
Yeah.
And so that's what I went to the University of Richmond for. I got a full ride out there, thank God. And that's where I met Perry in Virginia. But when COVID hit, I looked at my life and I said, okay, I think I want a big family, or at least I know I want to be with my family when I have one. And I didn't see being a doctor allowing me to have that flexibility with my time. And so I went back home, and my dad was actually working at a gut rehab in Chicago, which we recently just sold that property, but we had it as a rental for a long time. And I did my first floor plans there. And one morning I was at the kitchen counter and I was very nervous telling my parents, and I just blurted out, I don't want to be a doctor anymore. And they're like, so what are you going to do? And I was like, I'll do business. I'll do something. I'll do art. And I really didn't know, but I went back to my mentors in college and saw that I could perhaps do architecture. And so that's when I switched my majors from pre-med to pre-architecture and then went from there.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, I can honestly say you're the first doctor turned realtor that I've interviewed. So,
Really?
I mean, that's going to be an interesting thing to talk about. But, obviously, it says a lot about your parents to be able to even have that conversation, because in many cultures, telling your parents, I don't want to be a doctor and I'm going to get into something else could be difficult. But obviously, your parents trusted you enough and believed in you enough that they knew you would be successful. So that says a lot about, how you were growing up and motivated and the grit that you had.
Yeah, I also was seeing my dad was doing real estate, and we still didn't have the boy because we're all girls, 5 girls, 1 boy.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so I kept on seeing, the business and talking to tenants, and I was like, okay, where is all this money going to go? And I was like, if I don't get into the business, what are we going to do? And also, I would always go to see houses with my dad, and we'd be talking to the agents, but my dad would always complain about the agent talking about, well, I'm fixing the house, but the agent's taking all the commission. And so I was like, okay, Dad, what can I do to help? And then I learned that all I needed was my high school diploma to become an agent.
Yeah.
And so that's why I became an agent to begin with, to help my dad save that money. And he got a pretty good deal out of it because he still does not pay me for commissions, but he helps me do all of the rehabs really for all the properties.
So what's been that experience? Because obviously, seeing your dad and family own property and then obviously purchasing on your own are two totally separate, because now you're taking the risk and you're going through that process and you're going through that. So what was that experience like, and how old were you when you bought your first property?
So we joined like an investor program when I was going into college really.
Okay.
And so I bought my first one, what was it, 23 or 22?
23, you had to have been
20, that's amazing.
2 or 23 years old.
I think back to what I was doing at 23, and I wasn't thinking about buying property, so I give you a ton of credit.
Thank you.
I think it has a lot to do with the way you were brought up in your family. I mean, and I think it's amazing. But what I don't think, and I hope you can talk about it a little bit, is like, it's one thing to buy a property, but there's a lot of decisions that went into, before you make a property and why you want to do this. Like, what was the ultimate goal that you were trying to create, moving forward? Obviously, wealth building, okay? But if you think about it from, a lot of younger people nowadays, and we talked about this a little bit, they're not thinking like that. Like, they are a little bit, and we talked, you spend a lot of time talking about financial literacy. You mentioned, and I don't want to veer off, but I just was curious your take on it, because you mentioned your parents had experience during 2008, okay? And I'm curious your take on this. One of the things I think a lot of people that delay homeownership is because maybe they saw their parents go through a foreclosure, a short sale, and that experience, as a child, because you figure a lot of the, 15 years ago, 12 years ago, that's a pretty defining moment in a kid's life, to something that leaves and those same people are now delaying homeownership. And I'm wondering if years from now we look back and we look at that time, and then maybe that's why people delayed, because they had this, fear about housing. So I'm curious your take on that, but I'm also curious on why that didn't affect you in any way, and why you were like, I'm going to still go buy a property, because that took a lot of, guts to be able to do that.
Yeah, what I always tell people is that my parents gave me everything, but not everything in the way that we often see parents give everything to their kids, and material things or gifts or any of that. They gave me everything in the form of teaching me how to work hard and really seeing what that looked like. I always saw that hard work. And so while I did see that hardship in 2008 with the foreclosure, losing 2 properties, I saw them get right back up and continuing investing. And there was no other place that I saw a family of 6 kids be able to take care of the family, but be also to control their time the way that my parents did. So my mother's a stay-at-home mom. My dad really works with his hands all day fixing these properties for us. But if he's not feeling well, he gets to stay home. If he wants to take a week, he usually takes a really long break for Christmas, and he could do that. He could do it without having that thought behind his head that he might lose his job. And so that's what I really was looking for, and I feel the same way with Perry, that we really want to be able to control our time and be able to do what we want to do. This is really funny because I just finished a book that Perry told me to read, and it said, we want to be able to do what we want with our time, when we want, with who we want, for as long as we want. And
Yeah.
that's really what really brought me into real estate and kept me here, is that I could go to school, I could be a real estate agent, and I could be having another property that's bringing in money all at the same time. And it's
Yeah.
because I could control my time.
Yeah, I think people always confuse wealth building. Perry, maybe you got to take on this too, but like I always say, like having wealth or income, or it's really not about. I feel like it's not about having money to buy stuff. It's that peace of mind when you go to bed at night or you're not feeling well, and you're not stressed out about money. You know, a lot of people that stress about money, it's a very unhealthy way to live, and it's become, unfortunately, a way a lot of people live in our society. So Perry, like as you focus on financial literacy and something that's, you talked a little bit about passion for you, and you hear, obviously this great story about, buying property and family buying property. Where does that kind of, as you help younger people kind of see those same things, like how do you, project to them like how important that is to create those avenues to have a good life? What was the name of the book, by the way?
Psychology of Money.
I love it. Okay, I thought it might be that, but I was just
classic one.
It's like one of those must reads though. Yeah,
for sure.
So like, what's been your like experience with money and wealth, and why has this become such a passion for you?
I think that, and I got to give a huge shout out to Jocelyn, her dad, her mom. What's really cool about their family dynamic is, like she said, they are preparing their children to be able to take something and continue to grow it, to continue the legacy, not just take it and it stops once they're gone. For me, being able to see something like that was huge, because I didn't get that with my family. And so growing up, I love my mom. Mom, if you see this, I'm not talking any type of trash. I love my mom to death.
Yeah.
And all my younger siblings. I'm the oldest of 5.
Wow. So you both come from big families.
Both come from big families, both the oldest. We really kind of connected on that, and just the huge responsibility that comes with that, to be able to show your siblings what's possible and how to try and live a life of virtue and try to do the right things and show them what can be done.
Yeah.
That's huge for both of us, especially for me, coming from a little bit different of a background. Growing up, like I didn't always have all the things that necessarily everybody else had. And I think me being able to recognize that from a young age had me grow up really quickly.
Yeah.
Along with having younger siblings who I took care of because I was the main male role model in the household. I was the oldest male in the house to be able to, take care of things, take care of my mom. You don't want to see your mom struggle, work 2 jobs, still not be able to pay bills. Thought it was cool when I was younger, my mom was able to, buy her first house, but she had a lot of debt back then that I didn't know about.
Yeah.
Obviously, as a kid, you don't know everything. You don't know the full story. She had a nice job with Verizon. Financial crisis came. Verizon did a lot of layoffs. From that point forward, lost the house. Kind of close to homelessness.
Yeah.
But luckily, we had some family where we moved around. Anne, she passed away recently. Bless her heart. But she took us in. My grandma, who passed away last year, she took us in. I lived with her probably from the 7th grade up until I graduated high school. And I slept in the front room on the couch, didn't have my own room. My mom, my little brother, my little sister shared a room. My grandma and grandpa had their room. But it really taught me how to have gratitude and just how to be grateful for, just little things. And luckily, we talked. I played sports. I was a good student, so I had a lot of things to focus on and to be grateful for. But it's just really humbling to come from a humble beginning and then to be able to accomplish certain things that you really never would have thought was possible. I also think that there's a level of, for lack of a better term, there's somewhat of a trauma that gets left behind that always carries with you. So because of the financial hardships that my mom had to go through, because of decisions that she made or things that she may not have been taking into account when she was my age, that's been laser focused for me.
Yeah.
Like, for a lack of a better phrase, I don't want to go through that again.
Yeah.
If I can do anything to be able to make sure that I take care of business, I don't want to have to live that way. I don't want to live paycheck to paycheck. I don't want this burden over my head to where every time I go to bed at night, I have tears in my eyes, wondering, how am I going to pay this bill? What am I going to eat tomorrow?
Yeah, because don't you feel like it's a quality of life?
It's
financial,
a huge quality of when you don't have debt lingering over your head, when you have the ability to be able to do certain things. And it's not the vacations, not buying the nice clothes or not this fancy car. I drive a '05 Honda Accord. It runs great.
Yeah.
I don't have a payment. I could go buy something else, but I love my car.
Yeah.
Just that peace of mind that you get is literally priceless.
So Perry, I'm really interested. So, obviously going through everything you went through as a child, which, could leave a mark that, and again, I'm curious, you've accomplished so much, to where you are. What was that? Was it sports that really kind of taught you, kind of what was that defining moment that really kind of got you to the point where, because obviously, at some point you had to become extremely disciplined. And what was that defining, moment that really, allowed you to kind of find that way to where you are today?
I want to highlight 4 things.
Okay.
I want to say sports is one.
Yep.
The positive male role models that really poured into me over the course of my life, whether that were students, coaches, extended family members, or family friends.
Yeah.
That was probably the number one thing. And then other family who may have been more extended, but just me being able to see with my own eyes what they were able to accomplish, just to know what is possible, that's another thing. And then Jocelyn, just herself, I think that, and I'll just kind of talk in a timeline of kind of how all those things kind of flow. But sports literally meant everything to me. It kept me grounded when it may have seemed like other things in my life weren't going too well. Or
kind of like a distraction, maybe a little bit?
A distraction, yes, but I want to put it in more of a positive light, more like hope.
Yeah.
Or more like a refuge, somewhere to go to or something to work on when, I'm feeling down for having to sleep on the couch, no privacy, no bedroom. Just being able to stay at practice late, being able to be a captain of a team, to have my teammates respect me or look up to me because of the way that I do things or the way that I practice or anything like that. And then being able to play those sports, not only just in high school, but in college, is just huge for me. And
not even to play sports, but to be the captain says a lot about your leadership and that. So that you had to have your shit together, for lack of a better word, to meet Jocelyn, because she saw something in you. I'm assuming you met at school then, I'm assuming, right?
We met, so I met her on her campus. We went to 2 different schools.
Okay.
She went to the University of Richmond. It's probably like 20 minutes away from where I went to school, right off of Macon College. And so ever since that day that we met, we stayed in contact. COVID hit. We met our freshman year. COVID hit. She went back to Chicago. I was in Virginia, but we were able to reconnect once we both got back to school. I think that the day that I asked her to be my girlfriend was the day that a switch flipped in my head to where I told myself, okay, not only am I locking in for Jocelyn, but everything else in my life is going to fall into place. I'm not kidding you. I went from engineering physics was hard. It's a hard curriculum, very challenging. I went from C's, B's. I was an A student from that point forward. That is where I took the turn to, on my college team, being a good guy, a decent player on my team, to being a top 10 percenter, to being, the captain of a Final Four, D3 national college football team.
Yeah.
That was where I started to take a deeper look at my finances and say, okay, what is my plan for after college? What am I going to do to get ahead? What can I start to do now to be able to put myself in a position to where, I can go after all the dreams that I have in my head.
Yeah.
So it wasn't anything that Jocelyn did specifically, but just her presence, seeing what she was focused on and what she wanted to accomplish. I knew that, and I had always wanted to do something extravagant. I knew that I wanted to do something great with my life, not just financially, but I wanted to serve others. I wanted to help people.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to help people when you have your stuff together, when you have resources, capital to be able to do that. So it all leads there. I think that I want to highlight my college coach, who is the greatest man I've ever known, Coach Aruza. He's the one who instilled in me what does commitment look like, What does discipline look like? What does love actually mean? Like, how do you show that? How do you show that in holding somebody else accountable? And, what are you doing on your day-to-day basis? What does sacrifice look like? What does your integrity as a man look like? Are you doing the things that you tell people that you're going to do? I could go on and on about
No,
that.
I mean, I love it. I love that you mentioned sacrifice too, because it's something I was just having a conversation before you got here about sacrifice. I was talking with a newer loan officer, and we talked, sacrifice. So I'm curious, like, you're both obviously very busy. You're both, obviously have great careers. You have a lot of school. There's been a lot of sacrifice to get to where you are today. Okay. And in order to continue to accomplish the things that you want to do, there'll be a lot more sacrifice. So what has the sacrifice been for you as far as like, what you've had to kind of change in your life? Because obviously going from a doctor to, this, in a lot of ways is a lot of sacrifice for you. So what's been that journey? And as you sit here today, do you feel like you have accomplished what you want to accomplish, or I have a feeling both of you are thinking 5 years ahead, 10 years ahead. Yeah. Does that get in the way sometimes when you're thinking too far ahead?
I think it's nice to have each other and have our family that we tell these dreams to, because I'll tell Perry, we wanted this like 2 years ago. Like everything we have, we were saying we just wanted. So it's nice to have that accountability and sharing stuff with each other. But we definitely had to sacrifice a lot. And maybe the first sacrifices that I had to make was leave my family. Being the first born, I knew that if I didn't leave, it was going to be too much of a burden for me. Yeah, I had to make that sacrifice, and it did really hurt, leaving my siblings behind, not being able to see them grow up in a certain time. But I told them, I'm either going to be here and be able to spend time with you, or I'm going to go and I'm going to go make that path. I'm going to go show you what is possible. And that's what I decided. But that was one of the biggest sacrifices that I had to make. And other than that is sacrificing time I could have been spending with friends at parties, doing whatever any other people our age do, buying a new car.
I talk about that a lot, not to interrupt you, but I'm curious both your take on it is like, I tell younger loan officers all the time, they're like, well, how do I got to be successful? And I always use the word sacrifice, but it's like, and I always say this, I'm curious your take on it. Like when you have friends and family, not all the time, but sometimes when people see you start to get a level of success, it makes them feel uncomfortable a little bit. It's like, oh, I don't, they try to pull you back in to, I don't want to say their misery, but that's usually the word that I use. Because when you are both working hard and you're accomplishing things, sometimes people, not everyone's excited to see that side of it. So have you experienced that? And has it been hard for you to make those decisions where, it's like, oh, you don't need to work, on a Saturday. You don't need to, come meet us up here. And you're like, it's hard to be like, you know what? No, like this is what's more important because I have a goal. And have you experienced that? Have you had to, has it been hard with friends and things like that?
I think with friends, it's been hard, and Perry jokes that I have no friends because it's hard if I have 20 showings to do on a Saturday and Sunday because I study Monday through Friday. Yeah, I'm sorry I can't go. Yeah, but that also happens with family parties. And one day I know my grandmother, love her, but she said, what are you doing with your life? You're getting older. All you do is work. And it was actually one day that she told me that. It had been the day that I had closed on my first house on my own. Yeah. And I was about to tell her. Yeah. And I was just coming from work. I was doing a summer internship at an architecture firm, and I was tired. I was drained, but I was so excited to tell her. And she told me, I was like, man, it takes that happiness away sometimes. Yeah. But I just helped my cousin close on a property for himself yesterday, and I think that's what makes it worth it. That maybe that you're missing those family parties, or you're missing that time with friends, or you're missing out on the luxuries that people, the outgoings. We haven't been on a vacation in years. Yeah. But I'm not only able to do this for myself and buy properties for myself, be able to be the example for my siblings, but then go ahead and extend the hand back to a family member, to a friend, and help them buy a property, or show them that it's possible. And so it's tough, but the reward at the end is worth it.
I think sacrifice and obviously is important, but discipline and that, because it's easy to get sucked back in. Did you have the same experience?
I think that to hit on your point about, there are certain people that will try to pull you back in. Yeah. You always have to reflect on whether or not you're still in the right circle.
I love
you
that.
start to evolve and elevate. And this isn't judging anybody, putting anybody down, but to get to where you have to go to, you have to surround yourself with the right caliber of person that is on the same path of you, preferably in a place that you haven't even gone yet, so that they can help you get to that point. You don't necessarily want to be the best person in every room that you're in, or else you'll never have, you know, something to look towards and say, okay, this person can help me do this, 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 and this. Or I've never done this before. I've never experienced this before. This person has done this. This is the type of circle that I want to be in. That is not to say that you cut people off completely. You have boundaries. The love is always there. I mean, I think that those relationships are still important. And I think that something that's also important is some people will disagree with this, but there can still be some sort of a balance. Yeah. You can't work yourself into the ground. I'm talking to myself right now because it's always work, work, work. It's always, okay, how do I get to the next level? Yeah. I'm not doing enough. I know I can do more. Yeah. And you're hard on yourself when you have these goals and you want to accomplish something in a certain time frame. So reminding yourself that, you know, you still have to enjoy life while also working your ass off. Yeah. Yeah. And the two don't have to be separate. No. You can do both while still prioritizing the work, because for, you know, me, Jocelyn, yourself, we do enjoy the work. The work is what gets us out of bed, and we're actually excited to challenge
and
ourselves.
And that's a luxury too that most people don't have. They don't like to do the work. They don't like what they do. They're miserable their whole life. They do something every single day that it pays the bills, but they don't love it. And it's not a passion for them. So when you have something like both of you do that you're passionate about, and you can hear that passion, you're going to get people, you're going to attract people that you want to be around to you. And I think that's the key thing is like, you know, I've noticed that in my career, like the more passion, I've always been very passionate about the business and, you know, very driven. You know, no one's ever going to say that I'm lazy or anything. Like I'm always very driven. But I think that drive and who that is, it pushes people away that I probably shouldn't be around. But I feel like I also attract a lot of people that I want to be around that bring the best out of me. And to your point, you know, it's the old analogy of like, you know, you are who you spend, you know, the 5 people you spend the most time with, or, you know, whatever the quote is. But I feel like that is like really important. So let's talk a little bit about, you know, buying property, you know, wealth building at a young age. It's something I talk about all the time. If you've watched any of my videos, I talk about, you know, the difference of someone buying at 30 versus 40, 25, 35. Like it's not even in the realm of like, you can never make up time, like never. And I'm curious both of your take on this, but my biggest concern for the future is what is retirement like? You know, we're all living longer. I heard that if you're under the age of 18, I don't know how accurate this is, but if you're under the age of 18, your likelihood to live to 100 is like way more just because of advancements, especially with AI and medicines and the way it's going to advance. So like you think about everyone wants to retire at 55, 60, 65, whatever people are saying, you're going to live earlier. You're going to live, you know, another, like it's only half your life, you know, and you got to pay yourself and you have to have wealth. But if you don't start early, how do you do that? So what is your, like, how do you advise the clients that you work with, you know, when they ask you like, hey, why should I buy a property now? Why shouldn't I wait? I want to go on this vacation. I want to do this. I want to buy this car. How do you get them, you know, where you're having those conversations, and what is kind of like and obviously you're a great example, which I love because there's plenty of people in real estate that talk about buying property that don't even own a property. Okay. Yeah. So what's your, like, you know, when you're meeting with a client, like how does that typically go when you're talking to them?
Yeah. Usually the call that I always get is it a good time to buy now? Yeah. What are the rates looking like? Is it a good time to buy now? And I always tell them, look, the best time to buy is when you're ready to buy. Yeah. Is when you have the money set aside to buy, and that's the best time. And I luckily, like you said, I do have the house under my belt where I can say, well, I bought mine at this age, and then they're going to start comparing themselves. And I tell them the pros that come with that. Yeah. And I also tell them that your first house is not your dream house. your first house is ideally your first investment.
So can we talk about that?
Yeah.
I don't mean to interrupt
Yeah.
you, but I love that you said that because I just did a lot of videos on this because I feel like when people are buying at 35, 40, they're in a different life stage.
Yeah.
They're typically just got married, they're having kids, and they want the perfect house.
Yeah.
And when they go out and look at it, they can't afford the perfect house. And you also have more debt at 35, 40 years old than you do when you're 25. And you've made a lot of bad decisions from 25 to 35.
Yeah.
And now it delays even more. So do you experience that same thing with people? Like as far as like, you know, because I think used to be, I've been doing this for over 20 years. You'd buy a house, you'd live in it for a couple of years, you buy another house. Maybe you rent out the current home and you do this. But I don't see as many people doing that anymore. Is that what you're really trying to encourage people to?
Yeah, that's what I tell them. I said, like, your first house is your first investment, ideally. I also try to tell them that when they tell me they want to live in the north side where all these houses are going over bids and appraisal gaps. And I tell them, look, guys, your kids are not going to always go to the school. Your kids are going to grow up.
Yeah.
You're not going to always work in the same place that you work right now. And that's what I get a lot of the anxiety when they're buying. They want to buy next to the kids' school and close to the jobs. But that's not forever.
Yeah.
And so I tell them that, and if they do have that illusion, which they sometimes do, I say, okay, let's go look at the house within your budget and let's go see 5.
Yeah.
And they're probably going to be disappointed.
Yeah.
And so I tell them, do you guys trust me? Let's go see something that I think is a good fit for you guys, for your family, for your size, in your budget. And then we go see it. And then if they are motivated to buy, we find them something. And, you know, some do get stuck in that. And that's the unfortunate part, but you always try to follow up with them. But that's what I try to tell them. And the ones that do get encouraged by it, we find a way. I find a lot of people right now are trying to find something that could also bring in some income.
Yeah.
So a lot of
multi-units.
Multi-units. Some people, more traditionally with Mexicans, they want to rent out the basement, and I tell them the cons that come with that. But they want something that could be income producing. And so that's just a conversation that I have with them.
I think it's also helps a lot of people with affordability, because if people are scared, you know, I can go buy a house for $400,000, I can't afford the payment. But if I buy a multi-unit, I mean, we do this all the time with clients, you know, it's out of their price points, they can be where they want to be, but now they got to buy a multi-unit. The problem with that is that the multi-unit market is just blown up because there's so many people that are trying to do the same thing that a lot of times they go for way over, I think, what people are comfortable with, or they're worried about, you know, they're buying it. But I think it is a great opportunity. So on that, so you're having these conversations. What are reasons that people should not purchase now? Do you have anything that you come across that, is there anything that sticks out at you?
I'm just such a big buy now person that it's hard to think about. Do you have any ideas?
Of course.
He probably has ideas. I don't. I'm always like, buy now, rent it.
Because I always say, like, and I know you're probably going to be more like getting your finances in order and stuff like that. I guess the thing that I'm always thinking about too when people say that is like, well, what's the alternative? Yeah. Are you living with mom and dad? Can you save more money? That's a great reason.
I still live with mom and dad.
Yeah. So like, I think that's a great reason. Now, are you going to be renting? And what's that rent look like? And is that going to get you anything? Well, you're not really saving.
Yeah.
Like, are you going to be, because the problem that I always run into is people, they'll say, I'm going to wait a year. And then I talk to them in a year and they're in the exact same position because they've done nothing. All the things they were going to do, they didn't do. Is that kind of where you were going with that a little bit?
I was. And I think the question that you ask about should you buy or should you not buy is interesting. I want to tell you about between me and Jocelyn, how I came to buy when I bought, because I never bought before.
Yeah.
I didn't have all the experience in real estate. I wasn't comfortable. I had to step out of my comfort zone to do something that, you know, I've always wanted to do, but I didn't know if it was the right time. Sometimes you kind of have to take that leap of faith if enough things are in place to where it makes sense. For me, I was in a spot at that moment where I had to make a move. Whether that was go and rent, whether that was go and buy, something had to happen. I wasn't able to stay at where I was, you know, at the time. And so we're looking at options. For me, one of the biggest things for me is my monthly cash flow. How much am I able to save and invest on a monthly basis without having to draw from savings? Is everything covered? And then what is my surplus? I gotta have surplus. I got to have something to where I'm putting something away toward, whether that's investments or, whether that's renovations, whatever it may be. And so, as you probably know, a lot of mortgage payments are just as affordable nowadays as whatever you're going to pay in rent in whatever area you may want to live in.
Yeah.
And so when I bought, I was 23. This was December of 2024. I was lucky to be able to find a property, talking about multi-units, and I guess they don't allow you to do this anymore, but there's a main house and then a coach house in the back.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you have two separate properties. I mean, they have two separate property identification numbers.
Yeah.
I got to pay taxes on both buildings. So.
Yeah.
But you got that on one lot.
Yep.
It was a dated property, so it needed renovations, but this is exactly the opportunity that I was looking for and that I had been putting myself in position to take advantage of. Because I had taken care of business and had myself in a position to where I can go and do something like this, that made the world of difference. If you're in the position to be able to buy something, whether that's as your first investment, whether that's as the property you're going to live in, because generally over time, your property will appreciate. Houses go up over time.
Yeah.
Whether that's 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, very rarely are you going to lose money on a house if you do your due diligence and you buy the right property. But if you're in a position to be able to buy, make the leap of faith, the worst thing that you can do is sell the home and start over. I think people are scared to take risk. You can't get anywhere without taking risk. Risk is the name of the game in any market that you're in, whether you're starting your own business, whether you're buying property, whether you're, even if you're at your job, to be able to get to the next level, to make a huge difference, you have to do something that other people aren't doing. That comes with taking risk.
And don't you feel too like every wealthy billionaire, if you hear their story, like they made a move at some point that was like huge so move. Like you did what? Like they mortgaged like their entire house to put everything they own into one thing. The amount of people that can do that is like 0.0001%. That would just so focused on a goal that you want and you believe in something so much that you do it. Now for every billionaire, there's 100 other people that it doesn't work out. But to your point, you got to be able to take risk.
Have to.
And
big or small.
Big or small. Like you got to be able to do that, and you got to be able to take that leap of faith and be okay if it doesn't work out. If it does, but I think housing. If you go back, I'm a big data guy. Like I study data all the time. I mean, there has never been a 10-year period since like 1940 where real estate lost money. Even if you look at 2008, if you look at the 5 years before and the 5 years after,
it was a boom.
It was great. Like it's one little moment in time. Okay. And I think that's the one thing where that gets lost in a lot of, the information. Same with investing in the stock market. I mean, look at all the people that are investing in the stock market now. Granted, we'll probably due for a pullback at some point, but the stock market's, so I'm curious, what do you recommend? This is more for Perry here, but like, how do you, like, if someone comes to you and they say, Perry, I want to buy real estate, I want to save for retirement, I got to get my financing in order, and I know this could be a whole hour podcast in itself, but like,
kind of get me going.
How do you, because I'm big on retirement. So real quick before I say this, so I was lucky enough, my parents were not, I'm sorry to say this, but my parents, because they watch my podcast, but they were not great financially when we were younger, okay? I had a great upbringing, but they were not, they spent more than they probably should.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is that when I got older, I had two of my best friends that were in the financial industry, okay? And I always had this like ringing thing in my hair where I would buy like a protein shake at the gym. They'd be like, you realize that $5 every time you do that? And they would always give me the stats of what that would be, years from now. And I always tell them like, leave me alone. Like just, but now I find myself saying the same thing to my son all the time because he always wants to buy $5 here, $8 here, whatever. And my son's 11. I'm always trying to, because I just feel like it's important for money. So again, to get back to that, because you always need that, influence. And you talked about how you found your way in that. Where do you, if you were 22, just getting out of college, where do you think people should start? Because not everyone can go out and buy real estate.
Right.
Okay. But where do you feel like that starting point is? Because obviously when you get out of college, a lot of people typically have debt.
Yes.
You know,
I had it.
Okay, so like what is that? And sacrifice, I know, is going to be a big part of it. But what's the quick like thing that you should do right out of college?
I think right out of college, before you even graduate, I'm talking 6 months to a year before you're even walking across the stage, you need to have some sort of a framework or a guideline on how you are going to move forward after you graduate. Hopefully, you have a great degree, you have some prospective job opportunities that you have, or you have a plan to where maybe you started a business in college, or you have some ways that you've been able to generate income that you can kind of grow. Regardless, I think the path that most people take initially when they get out of college is they find a career in their field. They want to learn, they want to start making some income. Majority of people graduate with college debt. I had college debt. Jocelyn did not have college debt. Great student in high school. She had a full ride. The very first thing I did when I graduated is I started paying off my student loans. I didn't want to have any consumer debt. I think consumer debt, especially credit cards, car loans, are wealth killers. They kill your ability to create wealth because you have no cash flow on a month-to-month basis to start putting away. I like what you said earlier about thinking long-term because people don't know how to expand their timeline.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to get rich tomorrow or in 1 year, which it's very possible if the things that need to line up. People really do make it happen. But for the majority of people, they can't see past 5 or 10 years. That $5 that you could have put into your Roth IRA could be worth $500 in 30 years.
Yeah.
No joke. I think every $1, based on historical data, every $1 that you put into your Roth IRA will be worth $88 in 30 years.
Yeah.
I mean, the power of compounding is huge. That doesn't mean that you don't need to focus on how to explode your wealth making ability now, but you also have to have a plan for the future. I'm getting off on a tangent.
No, you're good. Like everything you're talking about is like spot on what I wanted to kind of get at.
Back to the student that's graduating.
Yeah.
I think that you need to have a plan to try and get rid of all of your consumer debt. A lot of kids start getting mail from solicitors for credit cards.
Yeah, they prey on
They prey on you. And we are in such a consumerist society. Social media makes it no better.
Not to interrupt you, but did you hear the stat for Coachella? Have you heard this stat?
I have not.
So 77% of people that went to Coachella financed their ticket.
Buy now, pay later is terrible.
Just think about that, 77%. So like, I have to go.
Right.
I have to go. So, but that goes to, because debt is fine for the right debt.
Type of debt is fine.
Yeah.
But high interest, when you're not getting a return on that debt, that debt's not working for you, it's probably not great. Student debt, I'm all for it as long as you have a plan to pay it back.
Yeah.
I fully believe, and I paid every single dollar back that I borrowed. I think that if you borrow it, you have an obligation to pay it back. You knew what you were kind of getting into, I hope. And so, you did a great thing by going and getting your education because that is what's going to fuel your purchasing power down the line.
Yeah.
But you got to pay that back. You use that money, you got to pay that back. Regardless, I think you need to pay off any credit card debt, any student loan debt. You talked about a living situation. A lot of people, they leave college and they want to go direct to living on their own. They want to get out of mom and dad's house, which I understand. You've been on your own for 4 years, but if you can make a sacrifice and your parents are willing, not everybody has the opportunity, but if your parents are willing and you're able to go live and work while paying low to no expenses on a month-to-month basis, you can really put yourself ahead of the curve. You can really start to not only just put money to the side and put money into investing, but you can literally knock out all of your student debt within a year.
And I lived at home till I was 28. So, it was a way for me to save a ton of money. All my friends were living downtown, spending money, nonstop. It's not just rent. It's a lifestyle. It is. When you rent and you're living with a bunch of guys and you're going out every night because that's what, you do, it's expensive. So, and you said you live at home, right? So, that's a huge sacrifice. Here you own all these properties.
With my mental health.
Yeah. Well,
And with favors every other minute. But I'm glad that I could see my siblings grow and contribute to the family, but it's a huge sacrifice.
Yeah.
Everyone looks at me crazy. They talk about us because we live 5 minutes away. And because I told them when we were buying, well, when he was buying, I was like, you have to be in Oaklawn.
Yeah.
I love Oaklawn, so I was like, you have to be in Oaklawn.
Yeah.
And we found that, well, I sent it to him. I didn't know I had a coach house. He saw I had a coach house. But we live 5 minutes away from each other, and I go right back home.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah.
I think that a lot of people, a lot of guys would die if they didn't live with their significant other.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that it is one of the smartest things that she is currently doing to make sure that she stays ahead.
Yeah.
25 years old, there's nothing wrong with living at home.
Yeah.
I don't live at home. I have a lot of bills. That's why I'm very adamant about my budget, what I'm tracking, making sure I know my numbers, my stats, what I'm cash flowing on a month-to-month basis.
Yeah.
Kind of where I am, distributing that on a month-to-month basis. But for her, it's a lot more hands-off and a little bit more stress-free because she's helping out with a lot of expenses at home, but it's not like a bill or something that...
Yeah,
The only thing
absolutely.
she has to watch her properties.
Yeah.
Making sure that those are cash flowing property, rental income is coming in.
And how many properties do you own?
Two.
So
Two of my own.
So I think one of the best things for a couple, before they get married is buying property separately. I've helped plenty of people, over the years. And I just think it sets you up so much better financially in the long run. What's interesting, and I don't know if you know this, again, I'm a big data guy, but the segment of people that are buying more than any other segment is single females.
Yeah.
For home buying. It's been that way for the last 2 years. I think it's 1 and 2 or 3 in the last couple of years. It's funny because the joke is, single men are out blowing money, doing dumb things, and single women are all getting wealthy, buying property. So you're bucking the trend a little bit. So great, but you have a great, example here of what to do. So I'm curious because one of the things I always talk about and is very prevalent in my house is, my wife was a saver, and we bought. When we first got together, we bought a place, and we've done real well in real estate. But kind of having the support at home, it's a big part of what we do. Okay, because we take calls late in the evening. We, when I'm on vacation, I'm taking calls. Like my wife's got plenty of pictures of me on vacation with a laptop. And I'm content. Like I'm at the pool, I got my laptop out, like I'm as happy as can be, but that's just, so there's a lot of sacrifice, and it takes having a significant other that appreciates that, understand it. But I think what makes both of you even more unique is you're kind of both passionate about the same thing, which can be great, but it can also, are there any conflict when you guys like want to make an investment decision, or like who do you guys talk it through? Like, is there, because I think one of the most important things, especially in real estate, is having someone that understands what you do, supports that. And I think it's, amazing. But it looks like you're gaining almost more out of it, being around her than yours. So how has that been between the two of you? Because it's a big part of what we do. Because if every time you took a call, Perry was like, hey, what's going on? We got to go over here. Like it would never work.
It's a huge blessing.
Yeah.
And I give him so much grace, and I thank him so much because he's been so patient. And not only with work, but also with family. The amount of times plans change.
Yeah.
The amount of times that I have to go pick up a sibling or pick up a call, go with a client on the weekends and the weekdays after school, barely being able to see each other. And he is not upset.
Yeah.
And he's cheering me on. It allows me to be able to do that without that burden on me. And I hope that I could provide that for him as well. With anything that I can do, I always try helping him make the meals for the week, trying to make him be able to focus on his job. When we were driving over here, I was thinking about it, but it's the biggest blessing being able to have someone in your corner that cheers you on, but also doesn't burden you in that way, especially this young. Because I feel like if we would have burdened each other, then we wouldn't be where we are right now. But it's because we did cheer each other on, but still shared that vision of growing and envisioning being successful, but also understanding that it took a lot of discipline and a lot of sacrifice.
Yeah, I love it.
That when you're choosing who your partner is going to be, alignment is a huge factor that needs to be taken into consideration. because we share a lot of these same core values, and we haven't even talked about anything with character or morals or faith or all the things that matter when you're kind of trying to figure out who you're choosing to be your person, because you don't want to just be in it for the short term. Life is a lot easier to build when you have somebody to build with.
Yeah.
You don't always have to do everything alone. I think that what's really cool is we share everything with each other, but we're not married, so things are on the books, things are separate.
Yeah.
But every decision that's made, we go to each other. I know exactly what her net worth is. She knows exactly what my net worth is. We know that because I put it all in a spreadsheet and I organize it.
Yeah.
But it's cool to be able to say and to have no pride about it. Like, her net worth is like double mine.
Yeah.
With the properties, and I do well for myself, but to be able to say, okay, this is where we are together and separately, and this is where we'll be when we finally decide to combine it all.
Yeah.
It's a blessing to be able to navigate that without, one, any jealousy, two, without any, any negative intent or anything that's, any malice, or to be able to do it. And we have disagreements all the time. It is never all sunshine and rainbows, whether that's about, lifestyle or, what we're doing with our time, priority. There's always a disagreement. To be able to come together, compromise, move forward, figure out the best path forward, you can't ask for anything more than that.
Well, I think too, conflict, this goes with business, friends, family, relationships.
Yeah.
Great things come out of conflict. Like, I feel like, my wife and I, we've been married over 20 years. And I feel like some of the best times in our life have happened because of conflict, because of things we went through, because of things we experienced, because of those things. Those are defining moments. They're, how we grow up, the experiences that we have, all those things factor into those, and it's how you respond to them. I use sports analogies all the time. So you played, football. I always talk about, it's like, the team that, you could go down and have, 3 interceptions. And if you come down and all it takes, you got to be able to put all that away and go back out there. Did you play offense, defense?
I played both over the course of my career. In college, I mainly played defense.
Okay.
But a good example would be, somebody just scored a touchdown. You got to be able to, short-term memory.
Yeah.
Learn from it, erase it, and then you got to come back with that same confidence, because now if you're playing at a lower confidence, you cannot play.
And I think there's a lot of business analogies that, you have to have that same mentality. Like, you could have a bad real estate deal. You could have a bad client. You could have, whatever. You got to be able to shut that out and go on to the next one and have that same energy and that same passion and everything. And I think, both of you are being very modest, which I love, but you guys are both really special people. Like, we didn't meet before today. I mean, I'm thoroughly inspired by both of you. Like I'm going to walk out of here today. Both of you have a really amazing story. I love, how you met. I love your background, what you became, who you became. I think your focus on your family, I think, is really special. And I hope, through a lot of this, people see that, and it's a way for you to, because I feel like, you said something about you want people rooting for you. I know I'll be rooting for both of you after this, because I feel like, I wish, you have to understand, I've been in this business for 20 years. I talk to realtors, I talk to clients all the time. And not to say that people don't inspire me, but, nowadays it's tough. Yeah, I mean, I think you can kind of appreciate that a little bit. So when I meet someone like both of you, it's easy to see why you're drawn to each other, because you have this amazing passion and, drive. And, but I think it's a lot more than that. I think, something with the two of you is very unique. And I feel like, you're both going to do some really special things in life. And to be at your age and to be focused on the things that you are and the way you're looking at your life and doing spreadsheets on financing, the amount of people that do that is I'm a spreadsheet guy. So
I love spreadsheets.
AI makes it a little bit easier because you can even get even more geeky on it. But
right.
I don't need to hire some developer somewhere to make a fancy Excel spreadsheet. I can do it now on my own. So it makes it, but I just want to say, I'm thoroughly impressed by both of you. I mean, it's really, I love to check in with you, from time to time and see, as your portfolio grows and see what you accomplish. Because I just honestly feel like, we need more people like you in our industry. So it's really been really special. I could honestly sit and talk with both of you for a really long time,
Probably
but
do
I
this
want,
for hours.
I want to be respectful. So like, I want one promise. We have to come back and we got to do this again.
Yeah, that would be
okay.
great.
And, again, I've been doing this a long time, and this is probably one of my favorite, everyone I've done a podcast with is going to be upset, but it's probably one of my favorite podcasts just because I love both of your stories, and just I'm really excited to see what both of you accomplish.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Yeah.
for having
If
us.
I could leave the audience with
Yeah.
one thing,
Yeah.
if we're wrapping up, if we're not wrapping up.
No, you're good. You can.
I think that the times where I found the most success in my life is where I was the most selfless. When I intentionally decided to go and serve somebody else when I didn't have to. When you go and serve others and pour into others and try to help others, it will come back to you tenfold. This podcast, probably a reason why you've had so much success is because, and I can feel the energy, genuine, selfless, willing to help people, willing to help clients. The more of that you put out, you'll get it back tenfold. If you go and give somebody $100, $1,000 will come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
It's not always about yourself. You do have to have some sort of a delusional confidence about yourself to
Yeah.
accomplish the crazy things that you have in your head, but also take the time to reflect, be grateful, and help other people, because that is what the resources, the capital, everything is for, to be able to go and give and to be able to be generous and to be able to give back. And you might think it in the moment like, yeah, I could have put this $100 in the market. It would have been $1,000.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, that money will be multiplied and it'll come back to you, and you will gain more than what you thought you could have by doing
So
something.
where
nice
do you
for
think
someone
like
else.
that, obviously someone instilled that in you, probably is that really from your mom? Like, did you learn that
I think
growing up, or?
my mom didn't necessarily teach me about finances and how
Yeah.
to grow, but she did teach me how to love others
Yeah.
and how to serve others. I watched her help other people when she was the one that needed help.
Yeah.
When you do that, the blessings come back to you tenfold. Jocelyn will tell you, I have a really hard time seeing somebody that needs help and not helping them. Even if that person has the possibility of taking advantage of me, maybe doesn't
Yeah.
have the best intentions, I have the resources. I've put myself in a position to where if I do this, it won't hurt me. What you choose to do with it after I
Yeah.
help you, that's on you. But I know that I'm doing the right thing.
But I love that, because I feel like, so I just turned 50, so I've been doing I'm older, but it took me, what you guys are learning now, I wish I would have learned at a much younger age, but I feel like, I make a great living, but that doesn't fuel me. Like, it just doesn't. Like, and wealth building is great, but again, I think of it more as a quality of life and
Right.
things like that. I think as you get older, and you're learning at a very young age, and obviously, you're experiencing this, which is amazing, because that means you'll accomplish, you'll make much better decisions when you feel the way that you do, because you're thinking of others and you're not motivated by money. Because I always say, like, greed is the one thing that will ruin any successful person, and when you can learn everything you just said about giving back to people, and when that's someone just asked me today, I was interviewing a lady for our team, and at the very end of the interview, she asked me, she's like, what's your legacy? What do you want to, and I said, in the interview, I said, I get more like out of watching other people in my office, they buy a car, they buy a house, they, do something for their kids, or they take a vacation. Like, I get more out of that, like seeing everyone else, like, again, like, I'm very lucky. I mean, the little bit about me, like, not that this is about me, but I didn't go to college, okay? I worked at the Board of Trade. I kind of bounced around, had to find my way, and everything, I had to work super, super hard. And not having a college education, it wasn't until like about 3 years ago that I was not embarrassed to tell people I didn't have a college education. I was always embarrassed. I was always like, I don't want to tell people that. Like, I want people to think I'm successful. But now I've kind of like owned it, later on in life. But the reason why I share that is that it took me a long time to get to a point where I like could understand what really made me feel good, or and you're already experiencing it. Everything you just said took me years. And I will tell you, like the experiences that you will have when you're motivated by that are going to blow away anything you could create in wealth, because when you're helping people, the impact that you have on people, and I even view as we help people in real estate, when I help people, my average loan size is like $200 and some thousand. Like I help a lot of like young first-time home buyers, first home buyer and their, entire family of, 10 people.
Right.
Like these are major milestones in their life, and that is what, fuels me. And my team will tell you, like, I get really passionate about it. Like when someone says no, I'm like, no, what do you mean we're no? I got a family here. Like I'm getting this, like I will move heaven and earth, to do something. So like for me, and I love that you brought that up, because I think that is at the heart of, a successful life is wealth is great, peace of mind when you go to bed at night. But when you can share that, what you two are building with other people and kind of bring them along on the ride with you, I think that's when it becomes really special. So super, anything else you guys want to say before we sign off?
No, just thank you for having us.
Yeah, we're going to do this again, right? Because I feel like we got a lot of stuff to go through that we can talk about. But again, just I don't mean to keep saying it, but like truly impressive what you're building. I'm really excited to see as the portfolio grows. So real quick, what I always leave this is, last question I always ask everyone is, if it wasn't for real estate, architecture, everything you're doing now, okay? Money was no object. Of course, you want to help people, all that stuff, okay? Let's take that all off the table, okay? If you could do one thing for your career, what would it be? Like, football coach, like whatever would be, what would be your passion that you would want to do?
Like our dream job?
Yeah.
I would do flips.
Do flips?
Yeah, I would fix houses.
Okay. What about outside of this industry? Is there anything that you do that's like outside?
I love teaching as well.
Okay.
I've done some teaching in schools. I did some Spanish teaching in undergrad. Teaching is, but you get that in I feel like if you're a teacher at heart, you do that anywhere you go, but I love teaching.
Perry?
I think it would be conglomerate of coaching.
Coaching?
I would love to at some point go back and be an assistant coach for my head coach that I graduated under in college. So, and fitness is huge for me. So anything fitness, football, basketball.
What's your connection to football today? Do you have any coaching, anything that you do, or is it something that you've completely moved on from?
I think that the closest connection I have still to football is just being a resource and a mentor to some of the guys that I still know in our college program that come to me and ask me for advice, and that whole pipeline. Outside of that, I'm an avid football watcher.
Okay.
But at some point I know.
So who's your team then?
I'm a Washington Commanders fan.
Okay.
I grew up in Virginia, so.
Okay. So you got to be happy with Jaden Daniels?
I'm happy with Jaden Daniels. I'm not happy with last season.
Yeah.
Especially coming off of a NFC championship prior season, a little bit disappointing. But the future is bright. I mean, you got to be optimistic.
What about college?
College, I've been an Alabama fan my whole life, even not a bandwagon.
Yeah.
My grandpa was an Alabama fan. I kind of just took under him.
So funny story in Alabama. So my father-in-law is like the biggest Florida fan. Like whenever you see him, he's got Florida gear everywhere. So my niece is like, I'm going to Alabama. And the look on his face was, he's like, wants to be happy for her. He's like, you don't understand. He's like, I have learned to hate this team my entire life. And now my niece is, going, or my granddaughter's going to Alabama. But obviously she's going to have the time of her life. And, but so that's my connection to Alabama. My niece is going to be there starting next year. So I'm excited to go down there.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Nick Saban fan. Like Nick Saban to me, like I listen to him, like I have videos saved of him speaking that I listen to on a regular basis. Like I love Nick Saban. I think he's like one of the biggest coaching, like I just love all the stuff that he does. So, okay, so we could go on for a long time, but I just want to say thank you once again. We'll do this again. Congratulations on all the success. We'll try to get you back in here and enjoy the rest of the summer.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Appreciate you,
Thank you.
boss.